Happening to get Jim Leyritz on the phone. Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Your home for New York sports. Here he is. What's up, Jim Leyritz? How we doing, baby?
What's happening, boys? I've been fighting this Newark traffic getting in from the airport.
Oh, yeah? You're driving through the city, huh?
Oh, yeah. The beautiful traffic in the city at 5 o'clock.
So you're driving right now with the phone in your hand?
Of course.
Jim Leyritz taking one for the team right now, literally and figuratively.
He knows.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I support that. Jim Leyritz, thanks to Red Wing Shoes in Clifton Park Center. And Jim, Jorge Posada, a guy that you know pretty well, spoke to the media earlier today. He was on CBS, and he was asked in regards to the 2003 MVP race, and of course how it relates to Alex Rodriguez, what his thoughts were in that race. And I'm flubbing here because I'm trying to get the audio. Here is what Jorge Posada said this morning on CBS.
You know, the only thing that I can think is 2003. You know, I was close to the MVP. It didn't happen. Alex won the MVP, and you know, I think second was either Carlos Delgado or David Ortiz. I don't remember. But, you know, I was almost there. You know, what could have happened if it's tough. It's really tough.
Jim, it sounds like Jorge kind of has a little vendetta or, you know, has a little thing against, against Alex Rodriguez.
It could be. It could be. You know, every player is going to have a different opinion of what they think of A-Rod as far as the lying and everything else goes. And, yeah, I mean, that's, some of these guys that got beat out for some of these things, they're gonna have a little bit of a different view than some of us do. But yeah, that's an interesting comment for sure.
Jim, it took me all the way back to Mike Greenwell. Back in '88, Jose Canseco wins it, and we all know, you know, Canseco proudly admits juice and whatever, everything else under the sun. Greenwell, when Jose Canseco came out and came clean, Greenwell put out a statement that said, "Okay, do I get my MVP now?" Is that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Is that like a normal thing? Is that like, do guys look back at this now and go, how much farther would I have been if this guy was doing it right?
You know what? I don't think so. I think Greenwell was probably doing that more tongue in cheek than anything else. You know, back then, you know, we knew before the rules were in place, you know, that there were a lot of guys that were using, whether it be pitchers or it be, you know, hitters. It was pretty prevalent in the game, like Jose Canseco's book did say. So to me, I think, you know, some of these guys that take the stance that they're holier than thou, that they would have never done anything, or I know a few of them that talk that talk, that didn't walk that walk when they played. And, you know, it's easy to say it now because you can't get caught. But at the same time, I just think that, you know what, up until it was against the rules, I don't think it changes anything. And I think now, if you do get caught and the rules are in place, that it should be a severe penalty.
Two-time World Series champion Jim Leyritz with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team, former Yankee. You played with Jorge Posada. You mentioned that his comments were interesting. Knowing Jorge the way that you did, was it out of character, the way that he's been talking openly about steroid users and how it affected the MVP voting in 2003?
Again, you know, by the way, 2003, it wasn't against the rules. It hadn't been implemented yet. 2002 was the year they actually were testing to see if it was prevalent in baseball. I think 2004 is when it actually was enacted. But it is in character with his personality. You know, he is not. He was not an easy guy for a lot of the pitchers to get along with. There was a lot of history of him not getting along with, you know, certain pitchers. And you know, you can't expect everybody to get along in a game of baseball. And I think, you know, he was very steadfast in his ways, very strong to his opinion, and you know, he did have a pretty good 2003. But at the same time, I think you know, it is a little more personal for him than anybody else. But it's in line with his character, though.
Wow, I mean, Jim, I'm a diehard Yankee fan. Like, you know, I think I have one of your bats from like Albany Colony Yankee days. I am shocked. I always thought Jorge was like kind of that like good guy, everybody liked him kind of guy.
Well, listen, he's a good guy. He's just, again,
speak your mind kind of guy.
Yeah, he was kind of like I was. You know, some people didn't like. You know, I remember Trevor Hoffman saying, because they were interviewing him in San Diego about, you know, me coming there and what it was like to have me there for the year and a half. And he said, well, listen, not everybody liked Jim Leyritz because he told you what you didn't want to hear. He told you the truth, and he was one of the guys that would just speak his mind. Jorge was a lot like that. And I think, that was, to me, that was pleasant. It's one of those things that, when you have a strong opinion, you voice it. It's very different nowadays in the game of the PC and everything that's so PC with everybody, that the guys don't talk like that anymore. I mean, I go back and I think, there were guys I just didn't like in the game of baseball. And there was nothing wrong with that. You know what? And it was one of those things. I remember Deion James, when he came to play with us with the Yankees, he said, Jimmy, I hated you when I played for Cleveland. I stood on the top step and screamed and yelled at you. And now that you're my teammate, now I get it. Now I understand it. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So, again, to me, that's kind of the opinion. Jorge and A-Rod were really never teammates. And, and best friends. So I don't think there's any love lost there.
Jim, does it take that level of just being able to speak your mind and let the cards fall where they may to be a good, if not great catcher, to just be able to tell people, hey, you don't have it anymore, you're throwing more curveballs, and we're getting on with it?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, a catcher's such a different position. If you're not a strong-willed person and you're not an opinionated person and you're not willing to, to fight, with guys about it, you can't be a catcher. I think that does go along with the nature of the catching position.
Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Former Yankee catcher Jim Leyritz, thanks to Red Wing Shoes. So, Jim, tell us. So, Levack and I get it, because Levack and I, we've discussed this many times. On the air, we will get in big arguments, and sometimes off the air. But yet, when it's all said and done, we know it's for the business. It's a work thing. It's not a personal thing. Who's the pitcher in your time? Or you guys would just maybe go back and forth about whatever it might be on the field. Of course, it wasn't personal, but who was somebody, you said you're a little stubborn. Who was somebody else that was stubborn or would speak their mind that you guys, man, every time you guys would have an animated conversation?
Well, I learned it early in my career with a pitcher named Scott Sanderson. Scott kind of reminds me, if I ever played with him, would be Mike Mussina. I don't think that would be a guy that I would get along very well with, because they're so cerebral that they really make the game more difficult than it really is. And I think those are the kind of guys I really struggle with. The guys that I remember Scott Sanderson wanting to say, "We're going to do third side after first pitch after second," and it's like, what? I go, first of all, I can't figure that out. Second of all, I've got Steve Sachs at second base and Alvaro Espinosa at short. Way these guys are going to figure that out. So, to me, those are the guys I had a little more difficulty getting along with, the guys that really wanted to disguise signs, or they tried to be a little more cerebral than just, just language. Just watch the game and react to what happens in the game. Those are the guys I had more difficulty with.
All right, Jim, Armen and I have been going back and forth on this all day. Eovaldi was left in to pitch the eighth. The other day, Pineda has a chance to, go after Guidry's single game record of 18 strikeouts.
You're really going to bring this up with?
Yes,
come on.
He's a catcher. He's going to tell one of us right.
All right.
I'm just saying, if Girardi's saying that it's too early in the season, Pineda's too young and important to leave in for the eighth, isn't Eovaldi too young and important to leave it in the eighth this early in the season?
Well, yeah. I mean, you would think with the histories, with the injuries and the things like that they would fall under the same category. So that Joe would leave that up to question. But then again, one of the things I never question about a manager, because guys, we don't know. We're not in that locker room. We don't see these guys before the game. What kind of treatments they got to get, how they're feeling. You do go back with a little bit of a history with these guys have. At the same time, there's a body language that a manager reads in a dugout, and you can't criticize that, because only he knows that body language. Or, I remember Joe Torre walking out to the mound in the 96 series and getting ready to take out David Cone. And David Cone convinced him and looked at him and said, "I can do this." And he left him in and he got McGriff to pop up. I mean, that was, those are situations that you really can't ever criticize a manager, because you just don't know what's been going on in that dugout, what's been discussed, what's been talked about. So, to me, I don't ever question those type of moves.
Well, and Jim, my point to Levack is I have a hard time comparing Pineda to Eovaldi. While and to his point, there are similarities with the ages, but there's a different personal past. There's a different injury past. Perhaps Eovaldi was better against the next person coming up in the eighth. The Joe Girardi saw the analytics, whatever it might be. I just have a hard time of lumping two guys together because every person has a different history or different personal situation going on.
You're 100% right. 100%.
Don't say that to him, Jim.
Yeah.
Come on.
Jim's got my back, baby.
I have a poster of you, man.
He's right. He's right. It is. It's person to person, situation to situation. And I'm going to tell you this much. I played with Girardi. I know the way Joe manages is not always gut, and it's not always the popular choice. But I will tell you this. If the statistics were in favor of whatever move he made, he's going to make it. Because in the long run, if he has to answer a question for it, he wants to have the statistics and the proof to back it up that he made the right move.
Jim, last year, Kevin Long just took total abuse for the Yankees' lack of hitting. This year, they're second in the American League in home runs. Do we give the credit to Pentland and the new hitting coaches?
Well, you know what? One of the things that I saw last year, and it's not a knock against Kevin Long. At the same time, it is. When you have some success with a couple of hitters, and then you try to use that technique with every single one of them. It reminds me of a guy that when I played was with the Chicago White Sox named Juan Herniak. And he had a style of hitting that worked with a couple players. But he tried to make everybody do the same thing, and it didn't work. And I think that's when I remember over the last 2 years coming in early to batting practice, watching Kevin Long work with these guys in early BP, and they were all doing the same type of drills the same way, and you just can't do that. And I think Jeff Rutland came in more with an open idea of saying, let me work with you, your strengths, and what you feel like you need to do, than have to be this certain type of hitter doing this certain type of drill. I think that's where the difference is.
We love talking to Jim Leyritz every single Wednesday at 5:15 with Armen and Levack 104.5 The Team. Brought to you by Red Wing Shoes in Clifton Park. And Jim, last night at the game in Tampa Bay, there were 10,417 people there. Every single game this series, the record is set lower and lower of the amount of fans for a Yankee-Rays game. The ball hit the the catwalk 2 nights ago. It's an absolute crappy place to play. When you were a player, what was the one stadium where you were like, sunny beaches, we got to go here again?
Speaking, you just spoke of it.
I knew it.
Between that and the old Detroit Tiger Stadium, those were probably the two worst. Huh. Those were probably the two worst. The Trop, because number one, you never got any fans there. Number two, the catwalk. But number three, it just wasn't. It's not a baseball place. It's not somewhere you want to go and actually watch a game, even though it's indoors. Now, as far as Detroit goes, Detroit was horrible because number one, it was just a really run-down stadium. But they also never used to cut the grass. Oh. And you couldn't hit a ball out of that infield if you hit it on the ground. And that's what made Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker so good during those years. The ball never got out of the infield.
So they did that completely 100% on purpose?
Oop, I lost you.
Did they do that completely on purpose? Let the grass grow for that reason?
Oh, yeah. No, it was a purpose move.
Wow.
When these teams came in that were the speedster teams, they didn't cut the grass for a few days.
Interesting. Jim Leyritz with Armen and Levack. So, Jim, what's the plan, man? You've been enlightening us for the last 15 minutes. So, what's your plan for the week? You're in the city for the week?
Well, I got my big tournament coming up. My foundation's Greatest Days event is this weekend on the 17th and 18th up here at Crest Hollow Country Club in Bethpage. I'm actually in town tonight for another charity dinner for Fire and Rescue in New York City. And Vector Media, who are the people that are my title sponsor of my golf outing, it brought me in early to go to their dinner tonight. And I'm going to be in New York City enjoying in the next 10 days. And then I got to put this plug here. My son signed with an independent league team.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yep, in the East Coast Baseball League. I am so blessed that we have our event on the 18th. On the 19th, I'm speaking in Fishkill, New York, to a corporation. And then the 20th is opening day for his league in Newburgh, New York, which is literally 20 minutes from Fishkill. So I'm not going to miss my son's opening day for his first year in independent baseball.
Jim, what's that like to have your boy sign a minor league contract?
Trust me, after watching him struggle with college and baseball and sail out and really not think that he'd get another opportunity, another chance, it's a blessing that he's got this last chance. And I think he's really getting it. And, you know, according to Kelly Stinnett, which is his manager, he's working hard and he'll be ready to go this season.
Congrats to you and your family, man. That's really cool. Jim Leyritz, go to jimleyritz.com, thegreatestsave.org as well, his foundation. Jim, have a great time in the city. Thanks for all you do for the community as well. And we'll talk to you again next Wednesday at 5:15.
All right, guys. Great talking to you.